Okay, welcome back, folks. What we're going to talk about in this video is how to make your own functions. You're going to find out sometimes when you're doing an analysis, you have a function as part of your job that you're just going to need to do over and over again, and you can get there with a lot of formatting and using different formulas, but it's going to be so handy that you're going to want to make sort of a sequence into a function that you can use many times. This might be a complicated math function, such as the value PL function, which we've seen in SE301 in some of our decision analysis classes, or it might be a text function or something of that nature. So let's say we have a problem here where I've got some text formatted, and I've got some temperatures. Maybe these are recorded by an analyst in the field, and I've got some in Fahrenheit and some in Celsius. And what I really want is I want to always get the temperature in Fahrenheit. So I've got this kind of interesting case where I can't necessarily chop this up and convert it because I have to look at the last character to see if it's F or C. So one way to do this would be to try to do text to columns. So let's give that a shot real quick. So I'm going to highlight the text. I go up to data. I do text to columns. I can't use fixed width because I've got some single digits in there, but let's try delimited. Let's try it with an F, and let's try it with a G. So we can only do one at a time. So I could try to do that and sort of get the F's and then the G's, but then I lose my column, so that wasn't that useful. I could probably make a copy of it and do that kind of thing. Do it once with F and once with G. What I'm going to try once with C, but what I'm going to try to do is use some string functions. So a nice function in this case is you can use the write function. You can select the text, and you can say I've got my first letter to the right. So this is the first character from the right. I hit that, and it's going to give me sort of the suffix. So now I know it's at least a Fahrenheit or a Celsius. So that's useful. So I'm just going to put maybe units here. But what I would like to have is the number too. So what I'm going to do in this case is I want to grab the left of it. So I grab the left part of the string. And here I don't want to grab the whole length of it. I want to basically do the length of the string. So I do len. I select the string, -1. And now I've got just the text. Okay, so I am almost right where I want to be in terms of the conversion. What I need to do now, though, is actually take this last number, because this is, I guess the number. And now here I need to do kind of an if-then. So maybe if this number is equal to an F, then just give me the number because it's already Fahrenheit. If it's not, then I need to do a formula 9/5 times the number plus 32. So it's 13 in that case, and these are my values. Of course, we got some text conversion happening there, which is why we get some weird justification. Some of these are text, and some of them are getting converted to numbers through the function. So this is my, Fahrenheit temp. So that's pretty cool. We went through a lot of steps to get there. So let's say that we wanted to go ahead and make this a function. Okay, whenever you're working with your own functions or macros, you're using what's called VBA, which is Visual Basic for Applications. It's a built-in programming language. It's part of every Microsoft Office application. It's extremely powerful. We're going to be going over a lot of it in the second block of the course. But whenever you're working with any custom functions or macros, you need to go ahead and save your file as a macro-enabled workbook. So most of the times it's an XLSX. You need to save it as an XLSM for macro. Now what that does, that allows Excel basically to put itself into a security posture that's going to allow it to do some more sophisticated things. And by renaming it, you're sort of forcing yourself to acknowledge that you are sort of in a heightened security posture, if you will, an area where you need to be a little bit careful because macros are powerful and they can run amok in some very rare cases. Not to worry in this course, however. Okay, so we have this complicated process where I did some lefting to get the left part of the the funky temperature. I took the right side to get the units, and then I did a conversion. I'm going to combine all three of these kind of into one function called, ftemp or something. So I'm going to go ahead and go Alt F11. So that's the Alt key, hold it down, hit F11. And what that does is that's going to bring up my Visual Basic for Applications IDE. So it's this little sort of extra window that pops up. And you're going to see I have a couple functions open here, a couple workbooks. This is the current workbook I'm in, Make Your Own Functions. And the first thing I need to do is I need to right-click, and I need to put Insert Module. So I have to make a module. A module is an area where you're going to do some coding. So when I have my module there, I'm going to go ahead and type the word function. I'm going to put 2f to convert to. That's going to be my name of my function. I have to pass it an argument. So I'm going to put some messy text. So some messy text is what I pop in there. And you'll notice here, okay, I have the kind of a functional body. I have function and in function. The last line in your function needs to be 2f, so the name of the function equals, and then the result. So the idea is you do a bunch of calculations up here, you set 2f equal to some result. For now, I'm just going to put in 2f equals 1994. That's the year I graduated from the academy. So I go back over to my spreadsheet. If I type in 2f, you'll see now my function is actually there. So my IntelliSense has picked this up. I put 2f. I need to pass it some text. So I'm going to give it my messy string. And I've got 1994. Courage we soar. That's the year I graduated. So that's not exactly what we want, but it's a good way to get started and make sure your functional wiring is all set up correctly. So going back into my kind of functional definition, I'm going to go ahead and do sort of those key steps. So the first thing, if you remember, I did a write to look up. So I'm just going to put 2f equals write, and then I'm going to put some messy text, comma 1. You'll notice there's some IntelliSense. So this is Microsoft features. They weren't the ones that invented it, but it's very helpful when you do some coding. It's going to walk you through sort of how to remember things. So how to remember different functions. I'm just going to put this 2f maybe part 1. So that's the first part. And then I'm going to go 2f equals, for now, just to do some debugging, 2f equals part 1. So now I'm just going to return the first part. I'm going to go ahead and save that. It's okay. Now if I go back here and hit equals 2f again, now I'm getting the f part. I think if I do a recalculate here, data recalculate, it'll work. So I'm just going to copy it actually. So there's now my first part. So the first part works. The second part is the left minus the ling. If you want, you can actually copy this to your clipboard. Go back into your IDE, your integrated development environment. Still up here in that window. And paste that in here. Just quarter of it in. If you put a tick in front of it, that's a comment. So that was the single quote. So I need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2f part 2 equals left. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in some messy text. And I want to do the length of the some messy text -1. And that gives me my second part. You want to watch the case on here. Sometimes case matters, so this is some messy text with a lowercase s, capital M, capital T. I'm being very cautious there to do the same thing. So that's the second part. So now I'm going to go ahead and try the second part. Just to debug it. I save it. That's a Control S. Go back over here. And equals 2f. And I'm going to check my function. Alright, I just have my number. Okay, so that works. So I've got the second part done. Now what I need to do is I need to look at the f part and the second part. So I've got to kind of put part 1 and part 2 together. So let's do that. So now I'm going to have to do an if function. So I'm going to go ahead and do if, and I'm going to put 2f part 1 equals f, then I'm going to do nothing else, and then an indif. So if this happens, I'm going to go ahead and do nothing here. So maybe I put 2f equals, I need like a 2f part 3. So I'm going to go ahead 2f underscore part 3 equals negative 999. That'll let me know I have an error. So now I'm going to go 2f part 3 equals, if it's f, I'm just going to actually reduce just the 2f part 2. If it's not f, then it's c. Then I can go ahead and assume that if it's not f, it's c. That's a little bit dangerous of an assumption. So here I'm assuming if it's not f, it's c. For now, I'm just going to go with it. So here I do 2f's 9/5 times plus 32. And then here all I have to do is say 2f equals 2f part 3, save the function, and go ahead and give it a shot. All right, it's working like it's supposed to. So that's kind of my function in a nutshell. So just to quickly recap, Alt F11 brings up the function. I passed in some messy text. I went ahead and did some baby steps here. I got the right part of the string. I got the left part minus the suffix. I kind of put a dummy variable in here to hold some values, and I checked if it was f. If it's f, I just returned the left part. If it's not, I return the conversion. And then the last statement is 2f equals actually the return value. So that's all there is to it. Again, you have to make this in a module. So it's right-click up here, insert new module to get your module. That's all there is to it. I do like kind of being able to do the steps sort of manually in Excel, and going through the formulas is helpful in your function design. And that's all there is to it. Good luck.